In this video, we're going to be covering the JJK anime and comparing it to its manga counterpart. We're going to be talking about all the differences, right? These are going to be things like every scene that was not adapted from the manga and the added scenes that they've added to the anime for a little bit of extra flavor. If you think we've missed anything majorly important or just more interesting, please let us know in the Discord below. There's loads of people, loads of talented people in there discussing anime every single day, and we'd love to have you. Anyway, let's get right into the video. So one of the biggest differences is that the manga from this point would be continuing from chapter 138 rather than the anime original scene that we get in the anime. In the manga, we start, as I said, at chapter 138 to an introduction to the main cast of the Zenin clan and what they're up to after the events of Shibuya. Instead, in the anime, we have this long, drawn-out scene that is beautiful, by the way, of Itadori making his way through a city, running away and killing curses as he goes. Now, the scene is absolutely beautiful, and it's revealed at the end that he was actually fleeing from Utah. Now, this isn't in the manga whatsoever. This is just some extra flair because they needed to have a title card, and probably made originally for the movie, which had the first two episodes tie into it. Regardless of that, it looked pretty friggin' good. Something in particular that stood out to me was Itadori cleaning his hands of blood as he recalls the horrible traumatic memories of the Shibuya incident, being almost a metaphor for Yuji's character arc in this season, of him being able to forgive himself and clean off all the guilt. Only after the title card do we return to the original material from chapter 138, where we see Nahoya, Zenin, talking to his assistant, I assume, about the events of Shibuya. This introduction, by the way, is vastly different than it is in the manga. Mainly the information is correct. There's two things that are really particularly different about it. There are many new shots and angles. See, something that anime needs to do that manga doesn't have an issue with is exposition. We've all seen shows where characters are just on the sidelines explaining abilities, and if you've watched 90s anime, those scenes are just a shot of a character and it's panning, and it's like Krillin or it's Kakashi sensei or it's someone just explaining something for almost, 40 seconds straight without cut. Now, obviously that's an over-exaggeration, but it's something that anime has to deal with. They have to deliver dialogue and not just a wall of text. And this particular section of story in Jujutsu Kaisen is filled with explanations like this. This arc is basically the JoJo Stands arc of Jujutsu Kaisen, where all of the abilities are so finicky and particular about their details that there needs to be explanation. And honestly, I've read through pretty much all of the Culling games, and there's still so much I have no fucking idea about because it's just so much information. So they're showing early that they're willing to add extra shots and scenes just so that it's more forgiving on the viewer when they're delivering all this explanation and exposition. For example, this entire sequence at the very start of this scene where they're discussing all the events of Shibuya is only 5 panels in the manga. 5 panels. And although there is only 6 shots in the anime, they still have them be detailed and wide shots for the most part, lending to the idea that this is a slow motion. There's not much to look at in terms of animation that catches your eye, so you have more time to concentrate on the information that they're trying to deliver. That being said, something I've noticed so far is that they do a lot less of the close-ups on characters to show their reaction. And I'll point out a few more examples of that later. It's kind of weird that they're using this kind of zombie almost like angle for the Zenin characters here. I have no idea as to why they decided to take this approach. It's far more intimidating, I suppose, and the lighting in the manga isn't there. There's no, lighting trick with the light moving around and making it all creepy. This honestly is a really good budgeting strategy by Mappa on this scene. You'll notice that the animation in the scene isn't great. It isn't. Simple as. It's mostly still images. But how do you make a still image still give you depth and make most viewers not even notice that the animation isn't that good? And it's that lighting trick and sound design. You see, as soon as that clash with the Zenin happened, where the sword comes to his throat and he punches through the wall, we didn't actually get to see any of that. It's just cuts and a transition shot. There's no animation really there. The only animation is him pulling his hand out of the wall. It's the shadows that give the illusion of true animation. This sound of the light swinging after the impact of the punch, making the shadows and the tone of the scene so much more eerie than we would have originally have seen in the manga, because the manga is just, you know, purely white. There's like no detail in terms of lighting there. By the way, one of my favorite deliveries of all time in Jujutsu Kaisen, because I have a bit of an addiction to the cat, but he hits a in the anime rather than the what that's in the manga. But regardless of that, it's the detail I want to talk about with this shot. They show us a little bit of the door open from where, I guess, the lawyer, not exactly what he is, but the lawyer enters, and we see this dynamic shot of Noya's reaction to the information that Fujigoro is the one who's going to be inheriting the Zenin clan. But in the manga, it's such a detailed and expressive reaction from him, and it's kind of disappointing not getting that full face-on view. Although it probably would have been covered up by the dynamic lighting of the scene, it still would have been really, really nice to have that detail. And I think that the original shot really helps sell the fact that this guy has an ego like nobody else. But they make up for that in the fight to come. Once again, when he's leaving the Zenin clan on his way to kill Itadori and Fujigoro, there's a lot of dynamically added shots while they're delivering the lines, but the close-up of the intensity of his intent to kill is missing once again. Another close-up that shows characterization. They're trading tone for characterization at every hurdle so far, and I really hope that that isn't something that they continue with, because there's a lot of spectacle to come in this season, and if they sacrifice characterization every single time they can for tone and depth from a visual point of view, then people aren't going to get as attached to these characters. That's what we're here for. The characters. The setting of Jujutsu Kaisen isn't all that interesting, at least to me. It's the characters that drive that narrative, because it's just so ingrained with the story. First we follow Itadori, and now we're picking up all the people around him, all starting to care about the people around him. If someone died from the current roster of characters, someone would find it devastating. So personally, I think that that is something that needs more focus in the anime compared to its manga counterpart. That's the end of that scene, and we're starting the scene up with Itadori and Choso. Now, that scene started up with flashbacks of the traumatic experience that Itadori went through. However, in the manga, we get Itadori, I believe, remembering a conversation he had with our blonde beauty, and her apologizing for not stepping in sooner, and saying that she now needs to go talk to Tengen. And when she asks what he's going to do, we're hit with this really imposing panel in the manga where a light's coming in through this big window, and Itadori is crushed. You can see that he is destroyed at a mental level, and its version in the anime is absolutely sublime. To match it, the score reminds me so much of the Terraria Calamity mod soundtrack. There's a song in the depths, and it just matches this chef's kiss. If I can add it to the video, I will. Now, although in this example of Choso walking down aren't as dynamic in the anime, which is such a rare thing, by the way, that the angle is less dynamic in the manga, but because this shot is so imposing and it drips tone, I'm very happy with the choice to keep it on this. The other thing I don't love about this scene is the walking down the stairs animation. I know they're trying to like show he's walking down steps and there's more in front of him. It just looks really jank, to be honest, but apart from that, I can't really complain. And once again, we miss close-ups of all four characters that are going to be involved in the next scene. We see a shot from Yuta. We see a shot of Nayo. We see a shot of Itadori and Choso. All close up, all their reaction and determination or depression that they're going into this scene with. This probably wasn't added because they want to have a bit of surprise when Yuta shows up. And transitioning out of this scene, we hear two claps. Chef's kiss. Mainly because these two claps are the two claps that we got at the end of season 2. Like, what's going on? And because this is the scene that he claps to lure the curses out that him and Choso are going to dispatch in this scene. They just decided to use it because it was a pretty cinematic scene, I guess, and it's curtain closed. Season 2 is done. Oh, but cinema. This whole section where the bridge is coming up out of the ground for some reason, that's not in the manga. Mappa are showing that they can do CG environments insanely well. They've learned a lot from Chainsaw Man. And holy crap, the color design is going to be fire. Anytime Itadori kills something in this scene, it's not in the manga. All Itadori does is run. And he doesn't go through the buildings like this either. He just runs down a road and then down into a tunnel. All of this new dynamic action, entirely original to the anime. 10 out of 10 in terms of added detail. And this is done, I believe, to help us as the viewer realize that Itadori is a little bit or a lot stronger than he was in season 2. In that manga, the only clarification we have for this is when Choso says it after this scene. Only one that Yuji actually expenses himself is the very last guy. And instead of it being this like weird, massive muscled guy, it's like a flying squirrel or something. Love the glitch effect that they use to introduce our adversary, but I do miss the fact that we don't get to see a close-up of Itadori's reaction to Choso's words there, because they're pretty important. Oh, nails, fucking hair touch up. That's not in the manga. That's all just his arrogant flair shining through. That's the thing about this character. Although his arrogance is kind of his most characterized trait, the thing that makes him the most is the entire reason he loses his fight in this episode. Although it was fairly easy to understand the two fights that happened in this episode, which we'll be glossing over now very quickly because holy shit, they are adapted basically one-to-one, and if not one-to-one, the added embellishment, the depth that they can deliver some of these fights and scenes in the anime is unbelievable. And the main difference in the Yuta fight is that they carry on the Yuta fight after the point of Itadori first running away and Yuta chasing him. They cut that fight to the opening scene of this episode, the anime original opening scene. So instead of the fight taking place immediately from on the street, the fight starts in the theater and moves out to the street where it starts to take place in the manga. So they switch up the timelines a little bit, only adding depth and information and not taking away from the source material whatsoever. Chef's motherfucking kiss. And that transitioning scene that they go from the theater to the original manga source, oh, there's a lot of sauce in there too. And that ending, oh, what a cliffhanger. I know what happened, obviously, and you probably do too because it was in the movie, and the shit's like 2 weeks old at this point. But oh, pretty good cliffhanger for anime only watchers for sure. But that's every main difference I spotted. Please let me know if there's anything different that you spotted, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it.